Hey folks, Jackdaw here, right back in full swing on Dragon Age Taylor's version content after an incredible time away at Glastonbury, where I had the most amazing experience of literally being less than an inch away from Dua Lipa as she sang Be The One, as well as shaking hands with my favourite male band, The National, Matt Berninger to be specific, while dressed as a tinfoil Swiftie. Purely immaculate vibes, but needless to say, I'm back in true style with the most extensive video fully detailing the 7 party members of the Veilguard. So in Dat.tv, BioWare are introducing 7 companions who apparently embody the studio's finest writing and deepest character arcs to date. We can expect the most banter ever in a BioWare game, weighty decisions at every turn, and the exciting possibility of romancing any one of them. So get ready to suit up and consider who might capture your heart while I uncover each character's backstory, from Tevinter Nights to Dragon Age The Missing, as well as other short stories, and share literally all the details we have so far, from Game Informer articles to developer tweets. And when I say suit up, this time I don't mean as a clown. Get your Sunday best on and prepare to tap those flirt dialogue options. Okay, let's start with a man who I know you all can't stop thinking about, because I also can't stop thinking about him. Lucanis Dellamorte, the Mage Killer. Lucanis, a poised and pragmatic human assassin who descends from the bloodline of the House of Crows, a criminal organisation renowned throughout Thedas. Despite Antiva having no current standing militia, the nation remains secure thanks to the Crows' lethal reputation, though the ensuing Qunari invasion still has me slightly worried. Introduced in the Tevinter Nights short story The Wigmaker Job, Lucanis Dellamorte is a master assassin of the Antivan Crows and the favourite grandson of Catarina Dellamorte, the first Talon. The Talons essentially being the leaders of the Crows. As her chosen heir, Lucanis is positioned to succeed Catarina as the leader of the Crows. Described in Tevinter Nights as a lean man with dark hair and umber eyes, Lucanis is focused and intense. The kind of man you couldn't look away from until he looked at you. In the Wigmaker Job, Lucanis and his cousin Ilario Dellamorte, both Crows, were on their way to the Tevinter city of Verantium. They had been contracted to assassinate Amberose Forfex, Tevinter's premier wigmaker and a high-ranking Venatori blood mage. And disgusted by Ambrose's method of feeding slaves red lyrium to create wigs, Lucanis and Ilario executed him, freed the slaves bound to him, and then destroyed an elven artifact that allowed spirits of vengeance to return to the Fade. And after completing this contract and accumulating around 40 kills, Slayer, Lucanis became known to the rest of the Venatori as the Demon. And throughout this narrative, the two cousins discussed Lucanis becoming the first Talon, but Lucanis believed that Ilario should take this role instead. Lucanis told his cousin that death is his calling, while Ilario's is to become the first Talon. And speaking of which, Venatori Malefica Zara Renata, a Magister of the Imperium, seeks the death of Lucanis Dellamorte with the help of her Venatori agents Crispin Calvo and Felicia Erimond, who is the sister of Livius Erimond, the evil Magister in Dragon Age Inquisition who swayed the Wardens of Adamant Fortress. So, cute little connection there. Anyway, these Venatori members plan to exploit Lucanis's every flaw until the demon is defeated. Continuing that narrative with ominous intent, the Dragon Age Day short story The Wake continues Lucanis's tale and features characters also introduced in Tevinter Nights, which includes Andreatia Cantori and Viago de River from 8 Little Talons, as well as mentioning Lucanis and directly featuring Ilario Dellamorte, Lucanis's cousin. And in this story, Ilario, Viago and Tia seemingly mourn the loss of Lucanis Dellamorte in House Cantori's casino in Antiva City. Ilario drunk and grieving, reflects on his childhood with his cousin as Viago de River carries him through Tia's empty casino. They reminisce about Lucanis' obsession with wyverns and their close bond. Despite Ilario's emotional turmoil, Viago manages to get him to bed and knocks him out with a drugged handkerchief. Despite the uncertainty among the crows whether Ilario's actions were part of a plan, a ruse, so to speak, or the entire guild was involved in protecting Lucanis from the Venatori, Lucanis' fate remains a mystery. In the Wigmaker job, Lucanis foreshadowed his own death, suggesting it might be a ruse, and this would allow Ilario to then fulfill his destiny as the next Talon, assuming the Crow leaders believe Lucanis is truly gone. Either way, Lucanis isn't actually dead because he's joining the Veilguard. But this is where it kind of gets a bit shady, because Lucanis' tarot card reflects his demon nickname given by the Venatori. The card itself depicts him surrounded by what appears to be pride demon eyes or peacock feathers with glowing purple eyes. And we connotate purple with a pride demon. Let alone the fact that Lucanis also did release Spirits of Vengeance back into the Fade in the Wigmaker job. Even further, small gameplay previews from the initial reveal trailer suggest that Lucanis might have some form of demonic possession, showing him wielding demonic magical abilities and wings. However, purely speculation on my part. Something is certainly going on with Lucanis regarding his enigmatic nature. Did he really die? Has he come back from the dead? Has he become demon possessed? We're gonna have to find out for ourselves. Either way, it's definitely intriguing and very exciting to see, and adds an extra layer to our already very enigmatic assassin. In smaller miscellaneous news, Mary Kirby, who is Lucanis' writer, who unfortunately is no longer at BioWare because she was unfairly laid off, well, Mary wrote, hands down, Lucanis is the sole dumpster fire of the crew. I wrote him specifically to be a bisexual disaster of a human. You're welcome. And then in the Veilguard's reveal trailer, Varric does describe Lucanis as someone who can bring a little darkness to the daylight. According to the Dragon Age YouTube account, Lucanis treats his assassin job like a 9-to-5, and like any office worker, he loves his coffee. Ultimately, short king with a mullet. What could be better than that? Well, for me, it's the next character, and that is Neve Gallus, the detective. Neve, a human cynic, fights for a brighter future as both a private detective and a member of Tevinter's rebellious shadow dragons in the streets of Munrafis. The resistance opposes corrupt rulers and fights against slavery in Tevinter, dedicated to bringing justice to the people. Introduced in the Tevinter Knights short story, The Streets of Munrafis, the private investigator and ice mage, who has a dwarven crafted prosthetic leg, was hired to investigate Quentin Carla's possible Venatori connections. After witnessing her contract, Quentin's very assassination, Neve teamed up with Templar Knight Rana Sava and discovered similar murders throughout Munrafis, all involving missing necklaces. Fundamentally, with the help of the Templars, Neve uncovered an entire Venatori plot to unleash a demon beneath the city using these blood-bound necklaces. Neve, Rana and the Templars confronted the cultists in the catacombs of the city, stopping the ritual and imprisoning the Venatori. And then following those events, in the final issue of Dragon Age The Missing, set in Munrafis, Varric and Harding track Solas while dealing with the persistent Venatori. Seeking help, Varric turns to Neve. Solas's attacks on Venatori sites and his liberation of their slaves prompted Neve to actually join this search. Varric asks Neve for leads, and she introduces the two dwarves to escaped slaves from the Shadow Dragons faction, revealing Solas's recent actions in Munrafis. They learn of a Venatori operation targeting freed slaves and decide to then protect them. And during this ambush, Varric, Harding and Neve defend the slaves, forcing the Venatori to retreat. Although Solas escapes their grasp, Varric and Harding vow to find a new ally in their quest against him. Ultimately, Neve proved essential in locating Solas, helping the Shadow Dragons and defending the slaves. Through her connection connection with Varric, Neve becomes one of the first default members of the Veilguard. We meet her almost immediately in the prologue as she joins Rook in dealing with Sunlas's ritual in Manrathis after being kidnapped by the Venatori, who literally lasted no chance. Unlike many companions who are action orientated, Neve focuses on solving problems through investigation. Her character represents the everyday citizens of Tevinter, a voice of the streets, voice of the common people, as John Epler put it, providing a street-level perspective on the Empire's tyranny, contrasted with the elite characters we've seen in previous Dragon Age games, like Empress Selene or Briala, for example. Now, Neve's tarot card features a striking Tevinter aesthetic, highlighting her icy mage vibes and the atmosphere of Manrathis. But most interestingly, there's a shadowy figure that resembles an evil Tevinter Magister. Could this foreshadow a subplot in Neve's narrative involving one of the Magister Sidereal? I'll be romancing her first, so I'll be sure to let you know if that is to be the case, but it's definitely an interesting tidbit, and a deliberate one too. Next up, I know that I was all over Neve, but we've got Emmrich Volkarin, the necromancer who just is absolutely going to be my Rook's bestie. Emmrich, a human necromancer of Novara's Mournwatch, comes complete with a skeleton bestie called Manfred. It literally can't get any better than that. Then again, I suppose Davrin does have a pet griffin. The Mournwatch, who are part of Novara's Mortalitasi Order, oversee the Grand Necropolis where undead and spirits dwell in a huge crypt. Essentially, they believe that when people die, their souls go to join the Maker in the Fade. But this process displaces a Fade spirit into the waking world, and so they manage that spirit by offering it a mummified host to preserve that very spirit. This is a process that was absolutely banned by the Dreadwolf himself because it disturbs his ritual. However, it is literally Novara's way of culture. Now, Emmrich was briefly introduced in the Tevinter Nights short story Down Among the Dead Men, and in this story we have Ordric Felhassan, a Novaran guardsman who dies in his service but is unexpectedly resurrected and finds himself caught between his original spirit and that of the pride demon possessing his killer, Lord Penric Khan's corpse, deep within Novara's Grand Necropolis. While this story unfolds around Ordric, Emmrich aided Ordric in navigating his perplexed state, and confused and conflicted, Ordric sought a solution with Mourn Watcher Myrna. With Myrna's help, Ordric confronted the demon to resolve his identity crisis, ultimately finding peace and purpose. Definitely looking forward to popping into the Necropolis's library and meeting Ordric myself. Following that brief reference, in the Dragon Age Day short story The Flame Eternal, set in 922 Dragon, which I believe is around 19 years before the events of the Veilguard, Mortalitasi necromancers Joanna Hezenkos and Emmrich Volkarin investigated a tormented spirit deep within the necropolis. This story kicks off with Joanna's frustration with being interrupted from her experiment quickly being overshadowed by the eerie task at hand, a screaming skull belonging to a restless demon. And so Joanna and Emmrich traverse the ossuary, investigating various manifestations, which culminated in the confrontation with said demon. And Emmrich communicates with this spirit, discovering its anguish over being separated from its deceased wife. Following the demon's instructions, they reunite the skull with the body of the demon's wife in the Crescent Fane, thereby granting this spirit peace. And it ends on Joanna reflecting on the irony of intense passion ending in another grave. But Emmrich finds solace in their enduring bond. And besides the banter at hand, the two return from the Grand Necropolis in silent companionship. While I've given a very, very basic overview there, the banter between these two characters is fantastic, and it really paints Emmrich as just a proper funny lad. I love his dialogue. And that's even more exciting because Emmrich has now joined the Veilguard alongside Manfred as our resident Mourn Watch necromancers. And game director Corin Bush describes Emmrich as a gentleman necromancer known for his intimate and sensual romance. The Dragon Age YouTube account further portrayed Emmrich as friendly, scholarly, and deeply proud of his companion Manfred. which is adorable. Developer Malcolm noted Sylvia Fekete, who has actually wrote Down Among the Dead Men and huge parts of Emmrich's character. Malcolm noted her significant contribution to Emmrich's missions, highlighting a scene she wrote that continues to give him the chills after countless viewings during development. Probably his romance, right? Emmrich sounds like bestie material. I can't wait to meet him and Manfred. It's gonna be iconic. Next up, we have Lace Harding, the Scout. Of course, our favourite Inquisitor, Dwarven Scout, returns to the fray as a companion now with her big heart, positive outlook, and a ready bow, as well as unexpected magical powers this time around. Seems like there may be some Titan stuff lurking in the way for the Veilguard, and I'm excited to see that. Now, of course, Harding hails from the Ferelden hinterlands right near Redcliffe. Born to a seamstress mother and a trader father who claims lineage to a merchant caste family in Orzammar, though no known merchant house bears the name to substantiate this. And of course, when the Inquisition began establishing itself in Redcliffe, Harding was one of the first to volunteer, catching the eye of Charter, who recruited her for her skills. Known for her cunning, daring nature and optimistic outlook, Harding very quickly became invaluable to the Inquisition. And tasked by Charter and the Inquisitor alongside Varric Tefris to locate Solas, Harding faces Varric's concerns about her trusting nature and the safety of her family. Yet despite the risks, she remains resolute in her determination to find Solas. And ultimately, in the end of Dragon Age the Missing, her and Varric strategize that Solas knows the two too well, emphasizing the need of a brand new hero unknown to Solas to improve their chances of success. However, that does not mean that Harding is removed from this narrative in the slightest, because she is joining the Veilguard as our scout, symbolizing the legacy of the Inquisition a decade after its disbandment or transformation into a smaller order without the Inquisitor, now more focused with the Divine. Her return not only nods to past events from the beginning of Inquisition to literally the Trespasser DLC, but it also introduces a new dimension with her newfound magical abilities for a dwarf, hinting at the broad implications of Inquisition's DLC, Descent. Either way, it's fantastic to have a dwarven romance option in a Dragon Age game. Finally, it only took 4 of them, and having Harding fill that role is even better. The Dragon Age YouTube account shared that Harding is a ball of positivity and doesn't have a bad bone in her body. She doesn't even swear. And technically, as Patrick Weeks pointed out, Harding now qualifies as an apostate due to her newfound magical powers. So although we just said she's a ball of positivity and doesn't have a bad bone in her body to the fact that she doesn't even swear, that sounds like the perfect candidate for somebody who could actually betray us. Just saying, if it's somebody I wouldn't expect, it would be Harding right here. In combat, upgrading some of Harding's abilities will allow her to use some of them automatically, enabling her to set Rook up for executing combos, which ultimately results in powerful detonations. Bring on the new Harding content. Next in our roster of companions is Davrin, our elven warrior. Now we know the least about Davrin, unfortunately, but even so, what we do know is that he stands out as a bold and charming Grey Warden, renowned for his prowess as a monster hunter. We first learned about Davrin, at least as a character, in August 2020 during EA's Gamescom showcase. The behind-the-scenes look at the next Dragon Age revealed that Ike Amadi, who has voice acted Javik in Mass Effect 3, well, he is recording lines for the character. Now, Davrin bears an unfamiliar Valisleen, potentially a testament to his Dalish roots. He favours a sword and shield and dons attire distinct from the wardens typically found in the Southernlands, suggesting a connection to Weisop's wardens or a completely different getup altogether. Traditionally, the Southern wardens have been portrayed in Dragon Age as determined to prevent blights, but actually their headquarters lies in the desolate Anderfells at Fortress Weishaupt, west of Tevinter. So it's going to be a little bit mind-blowing actually seeing the original order, as we've only seen its Southern portrayal. And speaking of that order, their leadership's recently been perceived as incompetent, cloaking their actions in secrecy, and Morrigan touched upon this in the ending of Trespasser. The Wardens of Weishaupt's secrecy has sparked widespread rumours and speculation, further fueled by their unexplainable silence, as well as their severed connection with the Southern Wardens. So while it's going to be exciting to see the original order, there's a little bit of drama going around. Now notably, Davrin is accompanied by a pet griffin named Asan, which means arrow in Elven, and we can pet and hug him. The reappearance of the griffins was hinted at in Dragon Age The Last Flight, and I'm so glad to see that has taken a physical, tangible impact in the Veilguard. And according to the Dragon Age YouTube account, Davrin is one of those guys who knows he's charming, but at least he doesn't take himself too seriously. And also, Mike Gamble tweeted, "Not gonna lie, Emmrich is my Vincent Price dad, and Davrin is my bestest pal. Sometimes Lucanis gets too murdery, but hey, that's family." And unfortunately, that's all we know about Davrin besides looking too much into his tarot card or speculating on the nature of the Wardens. And I know I just said this about Harding, but because we know so little about him, my eyes are peeled, just in case it's not an apostate who's going to betray us this time around. Next up, Bellara Lutara, an elven creative and romantic veil jumper obsessed with uncovering ancient secrets, serves as the face of the Veil Jumpers faction. This diverse group of explorers and mages and non-mages ventures into ancient elven ruins, notably the reality warping Arlafan Forest. Introduced in Dragon Age The Missing, the Veil Jumpers include members like Strife and Irulan, and their mission is to confront the dangers of the Cursed Forest, especially after learning of Stolas's retrieval of a powerful artifact known as the Crucius Stone, which does sound like something out of Harry Potter, to be honest. Just like Ike Amadi recording lines for Davrin, we've known since 2020 that Ji Young Han, who had featured in Anthem, is the voice actor for Bellara. Now, bubbly, witty and charming, Bellara is the next Veilguard recruit after the opening events in the Arlafan Forest, offering a distinct skill set with her electricity powers compared to Neve's ice abilities. Bellara is warm-hearted and deeply interested in elven artifacts, dressing like an academic. In other words, she's a nerd. Whoop! Her arm gauntlet is handy for tinkering, combat, and manipulating magic easier. Mark that one down too. She's another apostate. Just saying. That's how BioWare breaks our hearts, folks. They give us a brilliant, cute character and then crush our souls by having them betray us. Only joking, Bellara absolutely won't break our hearts. The particular markings on her face aren't familiar, at least not to me, and most likely resemble either tattoos from a different culture or Vaseline we haven't seen before, very similar to Davrin. BioWare have confirmed that tattoos and Vaselines are reflective of these characters' personalities, so there'll be some inclination behind it. Game Informer explained Bellara's unique ability, Tinker, which also Rook can get too, and it allows her to remove floating rock barriers, blocking the way for further progression. She's also been described to have slow time magic. And the Dragon Age YouTube account shared that Bellara toes the line between type A and scatterbrain. You can always count on her to come up with a creative solution to your problem. Ultimately, Bellara seems adorable and full of fun, with potentially an intriguing connection to the Executors, especially considering their shared triangle symbolism. Remember, even Solas finds the Executors dangerous, which is bold for him. This connection is hinted at further with the floating triangles in Bellara's tarot card. You can't just introduce a new faction with the same conspiratorial iconography as the Executors without some kind of link, BioWare. You just can't. Or at least you can't without having me go on about it over and over again. There must be something going on between the Executors and the Veil Jumpers. Come on. It's like Illuminati confirmed levels of tinfoil right now, and I'm not having it. You all see it too, don't you? I'm not going crazy, am I? Am I? Maybe a little bit. Either way, Bellara seems amazing, bubbly, super fun, and she's a mage, which is really cool to see how that dynamic is going to play about with her floating triangle gauntlet electricity thing going on there. BioWare out here really creating some of the best characters in this game. I'm so excited to meet her. And lastly, but certainly not least, a character I have been so excited about. Originally nicknamed as Harley Quinn back in the day by Patrick Weeks themselves, we have Taash, a Qunari dragon hunter allied with the Lords of Fortune who lives for adventure and doesn't mind taking any risks. Now, the Lords of Fortune are a renowned guild from Ravine, specialising in treasure hunting and artifact retrieval across Phaedus. Their daring escapades and thirst for wealth and adventure define their reputation, overshadowing any kind of political motivations. They aren't really interested in the politics of Phaedus, basically. It's all about that pirate life for them. And recently, apparently their influence across their own country, that being Ravain's coasts, has waned due to the increasingly bold dragon attacks, which threatens their ships and the land. Although I would say, amidst the challenges of dragon attacks, we have a Taash as our specialised dragon hunter joining the Veilguard. The Dragon Age YouTube account shared that you'd expect a dragon hunter like Taash to be a jock, but she's also well connected and, quote, knows a guy for everything. And Patrick Weeks explained that companions in the game do not have the same class specifics as Rook. Their weapons can vary and their skills are unique. For example, both Taash and Davrin have core warrior skills, but each possess specific skills that the other does not. This is further amplified by the fact that Taash clearly is a warrior because they have core warrior skills, but then dual wields axes, which, while has been a warrior skill in the past, in the Veilguard is a rogue trait. So it just goes to show you that literally the companions have completely different skill sets to Rook, which is epic and reminds me of Dragon Age 2, and I love that. Now, a user asked Patrick Weeks if writers choose details like eye colour or horn shape for characters, or if these are developed during the design process. And Patrick Weeks explained that it depends on what matters for the narrative. Some details are essential and need to stay true to the story, while others can be more flexible. For Taash, Weeks always wanted her to be the tallest party member. The idea for her broken horn came from the art team, which suited her character perfectly. As a dragon hunter and a Lord of Fortune, Taash would naturally have a busted horn and replicate it with something shiny, a detail that enhanced her character even though it wasn't initially planned by Weeks. And lastly, with her name being Taash, is it kind of like a Taashi, which means glorious one in Qunlat? Potentially, I think it's cool. That might refer to her previous affiliations with the Qun themselves as well. I just kind of like that a Taashi remark made in Inquisition. Ah, a Taashi. But there we have it, folks. Each of these 7 companions decently explored with their backstories, from tweets to articles to all of the other nuggets going out there as we get more and more information on the Veilguard. As much as I am excited to get to know every single one of these characters, because I do feel like BioWare really have the potential to give us the best roster of companions ever, I have a newfound eagerness for who the heck is going to portray us in the Veilguard. I'm looking at every single one of these characters. I'm hoping it's not Neve. I'm hoping it's not Emmrich, but like... What if it's like Asan, the Griffin? What if he's the ultimate betrayer of it all? Or Manfred? Can you imagine if it was Manfred? I can't have that. No, but hopefully, maybe BioWare aren't going to have a betrayer this time around. Maybe Rook's going to be the betrayer. Maybe there's going to be another dynamic going on. It's too hard, man. That's not fair. We don't need more tragedy in these video games. We're literally getting a few of their voice actors next week, and we're going to be getting even more details. So, of course, you're in the right place for the latest on everything Dragon Age the Veilguard. Let me know down below all of your thoughts on each of these characters. Who is looking likely for you to romance? Of course, you need to get to know them first. You need to get their personalities, but from an appearance point of view, or at least from a basic personality point of view of what I've gone over there, hit me up with who you are going to be smashing that flirt button on straight away as soon as it pops up in the Veilguard. I am going to be talking about romance in my next video too, so more on that very soon. But of course, you're in the right place for the latest on Dragon Age the Veilguard. I have been Jackdaw, and I will see you in the next one. But until then, I should go. Whoa, 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 whoa.